Hello everyone, we are live and tonight we're gonna go straight to the coaching session. I think the coach is already ready, so let me just tell him we are ready as well. And if you don't know, Thursdays are our coaching nights. Ready? Yeah, he lets a message here, so he should be calling anytime. We are gonna review telemetry for Virginia. We are still more off pace than we wish, so here we go.
Good evening, Alan. How are you, brother?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Good, thank you, bro. Good, thank you. How's your week been so far? Not too bad. Busy?
It's just
Good?
another week in paradise. Yeah. How about you?
That's it, mate. That's it. Yeah, no, all good, mate. All good. I've just recovered from a bit of a sickness over the week. Australia's that time of the year where everybody's getting sick again. So,
Oh,
um, yeah, I
it's
had
getting
the
colder there,
worst
right?
flu. Yeah, exactly. Well, colder, but in comparison to the rest of the world, when it gets cold for them, nothing in comparison. I mean, it like at worst, it gets down to like 10 degrees, like not even like 15, 16 degrees Celsius in the evenings. So we can't even really complain. You know, everybody else is in the negatives on your side of the world when it's winter. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's not that bad. But um. How's the racing this week been for you, man? I've been tuning into a few of the streams, seeing how things have been going. It's been a bit up and down. Has it been for you? Has it been just kind of really trying to wrap your head around just maximizing everything when you need to, I suppose, in the moment?
Yeah, like this is one of the weeks I'm practicing a lot of racecraft during the race
Sure. Yeah.
because it's a tricky track.
Sure.
It's a track that I also feel a lot of people don't want to race. So sometimes
Yes.
we have
Yes.
like the top split with people like 1.4k,
Yeah.
and they still believe that you win or lose the race in the first corner. So
Yeah.
I've been involved in accidents that were not caused by myself. I have spun myself,
Yeah.
but I also had great battles. I also had like great races, made some
Sure.
mistakes,
Yep.
capitalizing some of mistakes of other people. We're losing a
Yep.
rating this week, and we are in a situation that's it's interesting because if I
Mm.
finish like P5 or lower, I'm losing a rating. If I finish
Yeah.
P4, it's like almost net zero.
Yeah.
And then so
Yeah.
like all I have is podium, and if something
Yeah.
happens in the race that I lose control of the race, then like
Yeah.
I'm losing a rating. But it's fine. Like that's
Yeah.
it's not the most important
It's all
thing.
part of learning. Yeah. Yeah. That's it. It's all a part of the learning experience. Yeah. No. Look. Again, I think there was one instance I was watching one of your streams, and I think it was your last race of the day. I think it was yesterday where I think you polled it, and I think it was the defensive maneuver you were putting into turn five, I believe it was, when you kind of went defensive and then you pulled it back to the racing line, and then I think the other driver went down your inside, and like you just said there, the moment that that happens you lose the control of the race, quite literally, because then you feel like you're kind of dealing with not only one issue, you're dealing with two. First of all, you're trying to re-overtake to get the lead again, but second of all, someone else is trying to overtake you now. So the problem is that instead of being on the, offensive, instead you're trying to be on the offensive but be on the defensive as well, so it creates a different dynamic then in kind of what you do in situations. But yeah, I think definitely coming up in the next couple of weeks, I think racecraft is something that we should definitely pinpoint, because I think like we're consistently starting to find now we are around that second mark, and when we do walk away we do definitely find that little bit more. Some tracks we are definitely more closer than others, but those are typically the ones that maybe we've been to before, rather than the ones that we haven't kind of been to before. Again, Okayama is always a hard one. I don't think you're alone in sort of saying that Okayama isn't always an easy circuit to grasp. And in all realisticness, like no matter how good you are around Okayama, everybody's quite jumbled up anyway, to be honest with you. Like, it's not like you can be 6 tenths faster at Okayama and really do anything with it. You kind of just get stuck with being with everybody else anyway. So, really, then what it comes down to in moments like that is that then the racecraft becomes very, very important, because it's kind of like that's your only defensive mechanism realistically. Like you can be faster, but when you're in those situations, that's what helps you. And is that something that you found a little bit like when you are racing the guys that maybe just have that little bit more of an edge over you, you can stay with them, but then it's kind of like, again, in their situation, maybe they just have that racecraft in their back pocket that maybe just allows them to always have that step up. Is that something that you feel in a way?
Yeah, I think like there are two things, right? One we discussed before, which is like consistency, and
Yeah,
the one thing of the guys that are like better than I am. Sometimes we're very similar in terms of pace. Sometimes I'm even faster
yeah,
than they are, but
yeah,
they're like turning lap after lap the same exact time,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm like within like some oscillation, so I can't quite like build it up and set it up for an overtake.
Sure,
And
yeah.
also like whenever I have the chance, it's not like a super clear chance, and
Yes, yeah.
I'm more cautious. I'm always like
Yes, definitely.
I'm gonna try like if this is not a clear overtake, I'm gonna like try one more lap, and the next lap I'm like another tenth back, and okay, it's gone. Like the opportunity's
Yeah,
gone. But
yeah, yeah,
I'm honest. Like right now, I'm fine with that. I think I should be a little bit more aggressive, but
yeah, sure.
eventually we'll get there.
Yeah,
The other
yeah,
thing is whenever, and that's what like frustrates me a lot, and I try to overcome like, and I just become like overly aggressive to try to resolve the situation as soon as possible. Which
yeah,
is when I'm dealing with someone who is slower and who's not
yeah,
like and who's significantly below my skill level, right? Like they're still in their
yeah.
learning journey much earlier than I am right now. So it's not a bad thing.
Yes,
It's just like we're in different
yes,
points. Because
yes,
those are the
absolutely.
people who are like trying to like moving while braking. They are trying to
Yes,
defend at
correct.
all cost. And
Yes,
that's gonna cost me my race either because whoever comes behind me is gonna go for a dive and I'm gonna lose another position because I'm trying to save my race, or
yes,
they are gonna like cost my race. So in those, it
yes,
happened like
yes.
once yesterday. There was this guy who was significantly slower. He was like defending
Mm,
his life, and like you know
yeah,
what,
yeah,
like we're gonna hit each other. So I'm just gonna choose
yeah,
like where, so we don't destroy
yeah,
like each other's race. And I went side
yes,
by side. There was contact. Like I passed him, and
yeah,
then he could not
yeah,
catch me again. And that was like
yeah,
okay, that was
yeah,
the best I could have done. But those are
yeah,
the two
yeah.
situations
No,
that I've been
100%.
seeing like where like yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. I think in I think we've seen it a couple times. I think, particularly I saw it, I remember at Summit Point, and again seeing it, in yesterday's situation, last night. Um, I think the main thing, especially in these cars, that you always know is going to work in terms of a racecraft situation. The one way that you always know you're going to be looking after yourself and nothing's going to really happen, and you always are going to be in a safe situation, is defending the inside no matter where you are. And that's one of the most important things, I think, in these BMW cars, that you've got to be able to make sure that even when you feel like the risk isn't there of an overtake happening, you still need to make sure that you're covering it off. For example, if they're about 4 to 5 tenths back on the back straight and you think, oh, it'll be okay, it's never okay. These guys seem to be able to find a way to, every single time, whenever there's a gap, they fill the gap every single time, even though they're not in a position where, you can break and do the exact same thing. Now, this is the problem with it, is that the reason why then they feel like their pace absolutely degrades as soon as they overtake you, and then feel like that their pace falls away, is for the reason that we talked about right in the very first week of when we caught up to each other. That moment that they hit the brakes super duper aggressively like that, they're going to be absolutely ABSing until the cows come home, and that's it. As soon as they ABS in that big initial moment right there, where they put their foot to the floor, brake as hard as they can to try and get that car stopped, you're just peaking the tire like crazy all the way into that corner. And then what's to say that they don't continue doing that for the next few corners afterwards to make sure that you don't try and re-overtake them again. And that's where then the problem starts to stem. They overheat their tires, they start to slide, they drop pace, but the problem is they're fast in all the right spots because they're probably, positioning themselves in the area where you can't really pass. If you were in a Mazda MX-5, for example, completely different story. The opportunity for you to be able to re-overtake would be a lot easier. But these M2s, I feel like they're very, very unique in the way that they drive, that trying to set up and make a pass can be relatively quite hard if you don't have that massive pace advantage over somebody else, which again, at a track like Okayama here, I feel like to have that pace advantage where you can be fast enough to drive away, or be fast enough to be away from another driver in the right spots, is quite tough. Because in all honesty, if you pull a 7/10 gap by the time you cross the start finish line, By the time you get back to turn 5, which is coming off the back straight, they're going to be right on the back of you again. Because again, out of T1, coming into 2, you've got a big long straight, right? They'll probably catch you 2 or 3 tenths down that back straight. You come through the hairpin, once again they're going to be about 4 tenths behind. You've got a big another long straight to basically pull the gap in, and they're going to be right on your tail coming to turn 5, right? So even if you have a 5, 6 or 7 or 8 tenth buffer on somebody, it's quite hard to actually break away almost in a way, unless you can genuinely make sure that you can do that lap every lap in a row. That's when it can be okay. But if the consistency is like 2 tenths in, 2 tenths out, 2 tenths in, 2 tenths out, which is normal, you know, it's normal to be like that. But that's the difference between being consistently right at the front and then just feeling like there's some cases where you can be at the front, but one little mistake in your race situation can make a complete difference to the end result, right? So whenever I think about moments in a race, and I think just something for you to initially take forward, you know, as a first kind of step of racecraft, especially in these BMWs, especially at the beginning of the race when it's all quietly tight packed and there's a lot of kind of cars that are within reach of you, always make sure that into the main passing opportunities at this circuit. So realistically, when I think of main passing opportunities, I think of realistically turn 5. Turn 4 is a bit of a touch and go one. It's always hard whether you make a defensive maneuver into there or not, because it's kind of like if you make a defensive mover, it really compromises your run coming onto the straight. But then if you don't, someone can dive bomb you and then you get the outside line, but then you kind of do get that wide radius run, so you do kind of get a better exit. So it's always quite hard to know. But realistically, I mean, there's T1, T5, and maybe coming into like T8, which is like that little left-hand hairpin at the back. Those are the kind of 3 main passing opportunities, I think. If you feel like and you fear that someone behind you is going to absolutely fill that gap if you don't put your car there, you've got to put your car there, basically, in a way. So, especially at the beginning of the race, I would always defend the inside. So, in that particular maneuver that I thought about there and that you experienced last night, you put the car in the middle, but just before you came to the corner, you moved the car back to the left-hand side and completely opened up the gap, right? And that driver filled the gap, got down the inside, put you too wide, you got on the dirty stuff, you lost the position, and then you were on the back foot, right? If you defended it, you would have still been in the lead, right? So the very, very important thing is that in those moments, the most simple thing as a driver that you can do to keep control of the motor race, put your car on the inside. And that's one of the most important things. Even though it might kind of not make you execute the perfect corner, it'll compromise you on the exit. If that driver tries going around the outside, they're going to be in the exact same situation as you were. They'll get on the dirty stuff, they'll get on the marbles, they'll understeer, and then what will happen? The 2 drivers behind will probably end up going side by side, and that'll give you a break, right? That'll give you a little bit of a gap that you can then relax, take it easy, get into your rhythm, and feel good. But if you compromise your race very early, then you're chasing it for the rest of the race, right? And that's where the incidents can occur. That's when the crashes can happen. So if you put yourself in the position really well in qualifying, which you do, which is obviously amazing, make sure you keep that position, you know? And if you put it on pole, do your very well best, especially at the beginning of the race, to hold it. Because if you can hold on to it at the beginning, it's probably fair to say that you hold on to it for the rest of the race. So is that situations that you're finding yourself in here and there, that like maybe just at the beginning we lose that control very early and then it's trying to regain it, but we end up getting caught up in something else at the same time? Does that relate to you a little bit?
It does a lot. So it's
Yeah.
interesting you're saying, because I'm thinking about the situations, and I think like some tracks for me, like they're easier to defend because like you go on the inside line, for example, like Summit Point, the one that I had last week, or there was Lime Rock, like those ones, like you defend the inside, and if they try to go on the outside, you still have time to catch up on the inside and get ahead of them, right? In Nakayama, I've noticed that the times I tried to defend the inside, they went on the outside. But what happens on the outside is they don't have a good angle to do the next corner, and they just use my car, and that's what like frustrates like the. And it's like I'm not by no means like pushing back. Like I'm totally in agreement with you. I have to learn how to deal with that, you know, because then we go like kind of side by side, and then like I am almost a full car, like I'm ahead, but they have their front wheel just next to my back wheel, and I try to keep them tight, so I'm not opening up a lot my corner, because I want
Yeah.
them to be
Yeah.
tight. And then they just like
Okay.
dive on turn two, and that was like
Okay.
one race that this happened, like that I was taken out. I had to tow to the pit lane
All right.
because
Okay.
like I was fighting for P1, I lost
Uh-huh.
P1, and then P3 just like shot through it and used my car
Right.
as
Okay.
his corner, like, and then I spun, I
Interesting.
crashed the wall, people crashed into me.
Right.
So I think like in some, and for example, like in, I know exactly the moment we're talking about, and I regretted the second because I was rewatching the race later, and I was seeing
Yeah.
that that guy he was never trying to do those things, because I went to
Yeah.
the middle, he tried to stay on the draft, and when I opened
Yeah.
up, I basically
Yeah.
invited him to stay there, and he went for it.
Yes.
I was
Correct.
like, yo, that was a silly move
Yeah.
from me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that guy, he was a good driver, but
Yes.
in that position, I've defended inside, and I've seen guys going on the outside, being squeezed against like the next left hander, and they just
Yeah.
go for it like using your car, and then like you're all the way in the dirt. You're fighting for one
Okay.
position now, like trying to catch up like 3 positions back because you
Yes.
went
Yeah.
out off track. So it's
Yes.
kind of maybe, I think maybe like from what you were saying, I just
Mm.
have to be more comfortable doing the right thing, which is like defending the inside and
Yes.
accepting that like if they do something stupid, like something stupid is gonna happen, you know,
Yes.
instead of trying
Yeah.
like to
Yeah.
over engineer every single corner
Correct.
and
Yeah.
be losing like a lot of positions because now like I'm letting them pass through and they're not letting me pass through.
Yeah, yeah. And look, I think always the hard thing about again these cars and the way that the whole ABS thing works. We know that like when you ABS in this car, relatively it's not going to slow down as well. It'll slow down, but it won't slow down as well. But I think the biggest thing is that whenever you are on the inside, you always have the ability to brake just that little bit deeper, right? You always have the authority. I think is probably the best way to do it to own the corner. You realistically own the corner. And if you really wanted to, you are in charge of whatever you do with that corner. You can open it up if you really want to. You can push that driver that's on the outside out wide because again, it's your corner. You own the corner. The guy on the outside isn't in their right to be able to say, okay, well, I have my room as well. Of course, you can give them space, but if you really wanted to, you can push the corner in deep. You can run them out wide because again, you're on the apex. You are at the corner before the other guy. So the thing is that you can let them open up. Again, is it probably a risky thing to do with how aggressive these guys can get and probably the way that they think in moments like that? Maybe not. But the thing is that it's moments like that where you can just push them out a little bit wider, get them deeper into the dirty stuff, and actually compromise their exit. Then coming out of that hairpin of turn 5, then they're not there for them to put their nose in coming into the next corner, and then their exit will be super compromised. They'll probably be dead on the inside. Then the guy behind them will probably try to pass them, and then by then you already have a 7 or 8 tenth gap, right? And then your race opens up. But again, if they do keep it there and they are very close to kind of keeping your nose there, again, you can still get around the outside through that sort of turn 6 corner and then into 7. You can still hang it around the outside. Is it easy? No, it's not, but it's definitely possible. You've just still got to be wary of that. These guys probably need a little bit more space than what you'd be able to if you were driving against myself, or if you were driving against someone with a lot more experience. You've got to leave a little bit more room than what you think. But again, that's just an experience thing that you understand. So I think, yeah, racecraft we'll definitely have to go over within the next couple of weeks because I'd like to kind of get you in tune with just being able to think about these situations and have moments in your head that you can, in the moment, just instantly react to and be able to say, okay, I need to do this or I need to do that, right? Because the speed's starting to be there. The results can definitely be there, but where wins are being stripped away from you is from split-second decisions that maybe we don't make the absolute correct decision, but that decision is what then loses you the control, as we talked about, and then puts you in a situation where you're trying to chase back the control rather than feeling like you just have the whole race under your palm and you can just do whatever you need to do with it, right? You don't have to be the outright fastest. You just have to be smart, and that's what it all sort of comes down to. And that's for me, like, I'm not always the outright fastest. Like whenever, for example, I might just go jump in a random race that guys have been doing for the last 5 days of the week, and I haven't done a single one. I'm of course not going to be on the same pace because again, guy who has more laps and experience of the week rather than someone like me who's got skill but zero experience of the week, they're always going to be a little bit faster. So the thing is that like you can win that race, you've just got to make sure that you play the race smart, and you just got to put yourself in the right position, play your cards right, find the right points to overtake, put the guy under pressure a little bit, and that's when they crack, and that's where you strike, and then you win the race. But you don't always have to be the fastest. So I think, yeah, definitely something to keep in mind. But just as an initial kind of point, I suppose, that I've seen maybe a couple times happen over the last few weeks, really, really hold that inside. And I know that obviously, yeah, the guys can hold it around the outside, but it's better being safe than sorry with kind of that inside there. You have control, keep that control for as long as you can. If they do get around the outside, that's okay. You might only lose the one spot, but in the position that we were in yesterday, you went from very quickly being in control to losing control, but then as well losing even more control because the guy in third was trying to then overtake you, which then made you take the focus off the leader again, right? So if you're on the inside and he gets past, that's okay. You only lose the one spot, and P3 probably isn't going to put you under much pressure because they're not going to be in a position to because of where you are. Whereas where you were yesterday, you were very compromised and then nearly lost another one, but you held it off quite well. So, yeah, look, something to think about, something to keep in mind. But yeah, definitely racecraft, I think, for us is going to be a big, big exercise for us to just discuss and talk about, because I think it's going to, for us right now, in terms of where we are, it's going to make a pretty big difference in terms of the results that you can probably get during the week and give you more of those wins that I suppose you're looking for, almost in one sense or another. But nonetheless, I think all really, really good. Now, Virginia, how have you found this circuit? Because this is is it a brand new one for us at Virginia? I don't think we've looked at it before, have
We
we?
haven't
Or
been
have we
here.
looked at it
No,
once?
it's our first
Oh,
time
we
here.
haven't, yeah.
I have
Yep.
raced here
How
before,
are you
so
finding it?
I know the track.
Mm,
But I was expecting to go significantly better, to be honest.
okay, sure. Okay.
I did improve a lot from yesterday, like from yesterday to today. Not a
Yep.
lot, like 3 tenths, I think. So I was
Okay.
able to shave down some time just going through the telemetry and like watching your
Yep.
video. I think I love this track. It's just like one of those that's fast and tricky. So if you do
Yep.
something wrong on the corner, you are gonna be paying off that for a long time.
Yes. Yep.
But I think overall, let me think through here. I think overall, like the start, I was very behind you on the first few corners. I think I was able to
Okay.
improve a lot there,
Yes. Yes.
carry more speed. I think the biggest issues are coming once I go uphill. Once I go
Hmm.
uphill,
Hmm.
that's mostly when like I am not like when I get to
Lose a
the
big
roller
amount.
coaster, and it's not like I don't know what I have to do because I've seen the telemetry. It is,
Hmm.
I mean, I'm not connecting the dots or like I don't know. Maybe like you understand what I'm saying because you've been where I am
Yeah. Sure.
at some point in your life, but you kind
Yep.
of know like the recipe. Then you cook the cake, and then or you bake the cake, and then you eat
Yes.
it like tastes like shit. It's like yo, I just did everything I should have done. So what
Yep.
happened here?
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. I think for where we are right now, and again, seeing that we're coming to all these new circuits, I think it's great to see that whenever we, come to meet up with, the very little laps that you do in a lot of these circuits initially, almost in a way, to get to this point so fast is fantastic. Because I mean, when we look at it right at the beginning and we say where we were at, and where we were getting to after a big amount of practice right at the beginning, to be able to like in a very short space of time, literally nearly do a couple of runs, come back in, look at some telemetry, go back out, take improvement, and then already be within a second, I think is a very good spot to be, right? And once again, it's one of those circuits that being a second away in qualifying, yeah, it might not put you in the best position. Like you might be in third or fourth when you have guys that are like 4K, 5K that you're coming up against in some certain situation. But it's more so the case of that when the race does start, that second turns into like 4 or 5 tenths, if anything, right? Which always keeps you in that mix. But it's the thing of like that 4 or 5 tenths is still the difference between whether you can set up a passing maneuver and whether you can obviously not then set up a passing maneuver. So I think this week it's really just like about kind of another one of those weeks, and that's kind of the thing that we're obviously consistently looking at, which is fantastic. It's just about knowing what of one of those skill sets that we need to apply depending on what corner we're dealing with, right? And how we need to go about sort of applying it, or where we need to be maybe turning in a bit later or a bit earlier or a little bit less aggressively or anything like that. And that's what it all really comes down to. And I think that's probably the biggest difference that you have in comparison to me, especially when you come up the hill. Even looking here at 7 to 9, you can see that the idea is there, but the execution of how you went about a couple of things in terms of the way that you turn the steering wheel in, when you turn the steering wheel in, and then obviously when we know that we say, okay, well, when we turn the steering wheel in, it means we drop the brake. So you did those both two things intertwined, and then obviously because they were intertwined at that point, it meant that maybe the car didn't rotate as well. You picked up the power, didn't execute the throttle as well as it needed to, right? So it's just little kind of ultimately little kind of execution points, of saying, okay, did we use the right skill set and do it to the absolute best of our ability for this corner, or was there a little bit of a like a lingering factor almost around that we kind of needed to do, and I think that's really the biggest thing to think about here. So did you feel like looking at telemetry, that's kind of what you noticed as well, and that's kind of what you were just explaining? You just feel like it's genuinely just the execution of how you went about it was just a slight little bit different to how I was doing it, and that was where that time was maybe falling away for you in a sense?
Yeah. So like my first pass, I was either braking significantly later or significantly
Yeah,
harder than you were.
yeah,
So then
yeah,
I try like, and I think I improved a lot. Like I think our shapes are looking much better, much closer. So that has
absolutely.
improved from the first pass like to the latest one. This
Yeah,
one, it's interesting because this is the uphill one, right?
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
this, I don't think I got a good like handle of it yet, because
Okay.
everything that you do, that I do at least, like when I'm going around this corner, there's only one thing I can think of, which is if I go a little bit too wide on the exit of this corner, it's hard to
Yeah.
hold the car. You go through the cones like you're on the grass. And
Yes.
if you go a
Yes.
little bit too narrow, you lose so much speed that you're toast for the entire like next sector, right? So there's
Yes.
kind of and I feel that like once you go uphill, there is a junction on the
Yes.
pavement, and I feel like you have to
Yes.
very lightly go that down, and that's when the car like
Yes.
gets balanced, and then you go straight again.
Yes.
But that was kind of where I was my entire focus here. Not even like on the braking itself. I mean, it's the braking itself, but not even releasing and turning in. It was more like how can I position the car there and trying to feel the
Right.
rotation. Because whenever like I
Yeah.
missed that last piece and just trying to reverse engineer from that, that
Yeah.
was like when my lap would be gone.
Yeah. Yeah. No, 100%. 100%. So I think, yeah, like when I think about all those little things, it shows you just how easy the lap time is to kind of disappear at a circle
Yep.
like this. But it's again just one of those things that the more laps that you do at a track like this, the more that you start to figure that out. So I generally think like a lot of these things at the back, like it's not really execution like of structure incorrectly. It's just more so the idea of how you're actually trying to take the corner is that only needs that little bit of adjustment, and that's where the time kind of comes back to you, right? And that's really the biggest thing with this circuit. So a couple of things to mention at the beginning, but yeah, and a couple of things obviously just to show and clear up and just visualize in your mind and say, oh, okay, well, that's what the biggest thing is. But I think overall, mainly, it's good to see that, again, everything's looking super clean. Structures are looking super clean. Nothing's, disconnected. Nothing's not working. Everything is working the way it should be, which is fantastic. It's just about saying, okay, well, how can I go about doing this in a little bit of a better way, and what do I need to do to maybe execute this a little bit better, and if you can do that, then that'll be great. So yeah, let's have a look anyway, and we'll start off
Yeah.
with T1. So T1, always a bit of a tough point whenever it decides it wants to load. There
Reloads.
we
Yeah.
go. It's always the slowest. Yeah. So T1, honestly, look, you've done it very well. Ultimately, I think you've done it very, very well. T1 here is never usually very easy. It's always quite a tough corner, and I think for me initially it gave me a couple like ideas of how I wanted to go about it. Did I even want to do it in second gear? Did I want to do it in third gear? Um, Ultimately, yeah, we always think about these corners in the way of like, okay, as we're reapplying the power and as the kind of car gets into that point of where we want to shift up gear, are we in a straight line or are we still on an angle? Now, I knew that with how much minimum speed we needed to carry through this corner, I know that if I went down the second gear, I'd there or thereabouts basically be on the rev limiter literally straight away from when I got back on the power. And of course, I know that we are continually angling through the exit of this corner for quite a long way. And I was like, okay, well, let's definitely make sure that we keep it in third. So third gear was okay for you as well. Now, when we realistically talk about where 0.02 of a second goes, it's a very, very small difference. I mean, realistically, it's this it's this little gap from here to here almost in a way that then makes the difference between, you know, almost the amount of steering that you have in, but it's also that little extra braking that you have around here where you are braking that 3 or 4% more, that then does allow you to do this, then does allow you to maybe turn in a little bit less, but then does mean that you get the full throttle ever so slightly later because you were able to maybe carry a little bit heavier throttle through some sort of sections. So this is how close we're kind of talking about in a way. It's, you know, very, very small amounts of time that, you know, realistically, to keep it consistent in that way is going to be sometimes very, very hard. But that's just like a, you know, just a bit of a minor difference that to have that super close is always going to be really, really difficult, right? To find that 200ths of a second, to get that perfect every time, it's always going to be quite tough, right? But I think ultimately the main question is did this corner feel pretty consistent for you in the way you were doing it? Like, did you feel majority of the time your T1 would be able to be 200ths of a second off me, or did you feel like you had some moments through here in particular cases?
No, like this was one that I had to like improve as well, like from the beginning. I
Uh-huh.
realized the thing that I realized was you were going much tighter on the exit than I was.
Okay.
So I was
Yeah.
opening up a lot on the exit, so that was costing me some time, and also meant like it was telling me that I was not having enough rotation of the car. And like looking
Mm-hmm.
here, what we're discussing now, kind of feels like now I might be like even rotating slightly more because I'm using less steering wheel to go around it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I feel I might be losing the time, because what happens is because I'm rotating so much, the car takes a little bit longer to get stable, and if
Yeah.
I go
Yeah.
on the throttle like too fast,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of slides, and then you lose like a tenth, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
small slide that happens sometimes to the side, that's where
Yeah.
I lose a lot of time. But I feel
Yeah.
like if I have to go around this corner 10 times now, like in front of you, I'll be able to do like 8 corners like this, and then two
Yeah.
I'm gonna like screw up somewhere. But I feel like pretty good
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good. That's good.
And by the
And I
way,
think that's obviously, yeah.
during the race, as we start this race, I'm gonna hold the inside
Yes.
line, right?
Yep, correct, correct, spot on. This is a very, very important one to hold the inside line. Whenever you get put on the outside here, it turns into an absolute drama this corner because everywhere bar the racing line here, you just feel like you have no grip almost in a way. And especially in these BMWs where even on the racing line it feels like it's trying to snap away from you like a bloody fish on a fishing rod. Like it just never wants to bite like any other car, this one. If you're off the racing line, hates it, right? So yes, very perfect. That's the idea that you want to have, right? Whenever you have a 5/10 gap, you feel like they're not going to do something, do it anyway, right? And it's always better being safe than sorry. You keep the control. They might gain on you a little bit, but you know that you blocked out any opportunity of someone doing something, right? So that's the idea that you want to have. No matter, you know, obviously be realistic with it, right? If they're a second back and you're going to dive to the inside, obviously that's just obviously losing yourself time. But
Yeah.
if they're within that half a second, and I've seen it in many situations in your races where I'm like, they're not there, but I'd still probably defend. And then when we don't defend, I just see straight down the inside and they fill the gap every time, right? So you've seen it, you've experienced it firsthand. Better to be safe in those situations, right? So just try and really keep that one in mind whenever you're in a situation like that, because that'll really help you out. So no, good thinking there. That's great. So yeah, no, look, honestly, the only little thing I could say there, it's just going to be that smoothness off the back of the trail. I mean, it's literally just that little minor pressure at the back, but then that little minor pressure at the back is caused by that little minor difference in the middle, and you know, it's just that little kind of area that is almost impossible for us to change. But if you can keep what you're doing and what you're feeling consistent here, then you're always going to be at least within half a tenth at worst, almost in a way, at this corner, and that's exactly what you need, right? So I think that's all perfectly fine in my opinion. So no worries there. Now, 2 and 3. So ultimately, this was just a little bit of, I think, of a just a minor like approach that was a little bit different from one another. So I could see the skill set you were trying to use here. You were trying to do like the negative squeeze. So you were trying to get to peak pressure at the end and kind of squeeze into the brake and get the speed washed off more at the end, rather than kind of getting the speed washed off at the start. So is that probably fair to say for this corner that was the maybe aim of approach for you?
Let me think here. That was one that were like significantly off on our braking on our
Yeah,
we started braking.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I think like to be very honest, I don't think that's the approach I'm taking here.
Okay,
I think I was just
okay.
trying to find like where the minimum speed where it should be.
Yeah.
And if
Okay.
you see, like I
Yeah.
started earlier, and that's probably why I didn't go like as hard. And then I'm feeling
Yeah.
that pressure is not being enough, so I'm like squeezing more and more
Yeah.
to just try to feel like. The one thing that changed once I saw your video, what wasn't
Uh-huh.
even the telemetry, was the video, is I was
Uh-huh.
approaching this as like the later corner, and then I
Uh-huh.
realized like this is kind of a long U-shaped corner that you
Yes.
have like from that
Yeah.
braking zone, you have to do the U all the way to get the apex on the late apex on the second side, and that was like
Yes.
what helped me. I was good like half a second from you right here the first time I saw,
Really? Oh wow.
and I
Okay.
was able to
Sure.
shave like to less than a tenth, but that was like
Yeah.
approaching as a U turn, like a U corner, rather than like
Yes.
or kind of a hairpin rather than like a double left-hander.
Just a flowy. Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. Um, so yeah, interesting that you're mentioning about the minimum speeds there, because realistically, in the way that you were kind of going about it here, your minimum speed is your minimum speed here in this case scenario is basically being washed off right at the apex, right? So you're carrying a lot of initial speed coming into the corner. So as you kind of squeeze into the brake from pretty much here to here, you're kind of carrying a lot more sort of speed. But even still, because you picked up the brake a little bit earlier, even though in that fact of that momentum you're carrying in your sense makes you feel like you're going faster, in comparison to myself, I'm actually still going faster. But in my case, the way that I'm going about it is I'm basically washing off that speed right at the beginning, allowing myself to carry it through into the apex, and then obviously I can pick up the power because I've washed off that speed early. I've just carried that kind of slower momentum into the corner, and then it allows the car to be very balanced, and I can just punch out of the corner when I need to. Whereas in the way you're going about it, again, even though your way is obviously slightly slower because obviously we broke a bit earlier here. It's just more so a case of that you'd be naturally closer if you broke harder at the start and then trailed off more, because you would wash off the speed at the start, you'd carry the trail in, and then you'd pick up the power at the apex and off you kind of go. You did do the exact same thing in all honesty. You picked up the power basically at the same spot, but the problem is that because you broke earlier, that first of all was going to be the big issue there. But then as well, just because of the way you jumped onto the brakes, the balance exactly wasn't exactly where it needed to be, and it was just kind of like then you had to sit there and wait a little bit because you just felt like maybe it was going to understeer on you, or you had some slight of hesitation with where the car was being positioned, almost in a sense. So I think coming into this corner, you've just got to kind of approach as one of our normal ones. And again, like you said, you looked at it probably in a bit of a different way of how initially you were wanting to take it. But in all fairness, you just got to look at one of these ones as just like a normal sort of normal braking zone, just like a peak, a hold, and a trail off as you get down to the apex, and then you can power on and kind of off you go, rather it being one of those ones where I can see maybe the idea that you had here. Maybe you weren't trying to do it, but ultimately, in a way, you were trying to do one of those corners where it was like, the braking started quite early, but you didn't want to wash the speed off the start. You wanted to wash it in more at the end, so you rotated late. That's kind of what you were doing. And in all honesty, it did work, because you look at your steering angle down there and look how much less steering that you have in comparison to myself, right? So it did actually benefit you in that sort of area. But in the sense of the speed difference that we're kind of carrying, it was a little bit sort of less. So try and approach it more with having like the peak and the hold at the start, and just sort of trailing your brake as you start to actually like aggressively turn into the corner. Obviously you feel like you're turning and you're angling all the way into here, but don't actually obviously start your trail braking until you're actually actively turning in to get to the apex. That's where you kind of want to sort of retract the brake. So um, was this a way that you were going about it at any point? Like, did you feel like you started out in this way, but maybe it was just like the approach that just wasn't really giving the result that you wanted to, in a way, I guess?
I tried so many things here. In the beginning, I think was braking much later, and I was missing the
Okay.
apex. Like I was treating the corner differently, until I
Yeah.
realized
Okay.
that I had to go like on the throttle, right before
Yeah.
like or a little bit before hitting the apex, and use all the
Yeah.
outside of the next like straight. So it took me some
Yes.
time to finally like nail the behavior there. Then I was
Okay.
braking, I think, significantly later than you were.
Yes.
And I was also going narrower because when I saw the video, this
Yeah.
like the thing that scares me about this corner, and I just have to practice more,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
you open up almost to the outside curb, and that's
Yeah.
when the
The
car
curve.
rotates and you go on the throttle, and then you like cut in the apex and get a lot of speed, right? If you
Yes.
go like half a meter to the right side, you touch the grass, you were done.
Yeah,
Like you
you're
were
off.
gone.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I
yeah.
think in the beginning I was very afraid of like spinning because of that. So I was trying to be more cautious.
Sure.
But when I saw
Yeah,
your line as well, I was like, okay, I have to be comfortable taking this risk and do this like several times
yeah,
until I get better. But those were a
yeah.
couple of things that were in my mind when I was going around this corner.
Yeah, no, for sure. So look, again, it's just one of those corners that more track time helps you out, right? But I think here now you kind of know the approach. You can definitely get away with it in doing the way you are doing it, because at the end of the day, you are only a tenth off, right? But again, when we are looking to absolutely maximize the speed through here, the best way to do it is making sure that you're getting the speed washed off at the start, and then you're just sort of carrying the momentum into the apex, and then that speed and that momentum you carried into the apex is at that perfect amount where it's nice and balanced and you can pick up the throttle and off you go, right? That's the way that we got to kind of look at it. And that's the way that we always know, right? We know that there is so many different approaches to so many types of corners. You can get away with doing things in many different ways and be similar to each other, but this is the way that I feel for me allows myself to get through the corner as consistent as possible. And I feel like for you, you know, when especially you're in the heat of a battle or you're in a racing situation, getting the speed washed off more at the start is going to be better than you carrying in the speed. Because imagine if you're right up behind someone's bumper into coming into here, right, and you're right behind another driver. Imagine if you're doing it in the way where you're carrying the momentum in and you're trying to slow it down the middle. You're just going to smash straight into the back of them, right? You're going to go straight through them. Whereas if you always know that your braking style is you're washing off the speed at the start that you can power out, you're always going to be saying, okay, well, it backs off a bit initially, but I get right onto the back of the bumper coming into the next corner, which is great. Now, passing opportunity wise here, it's always quite hard. Like, you know, even coming into turn 4, the next corner, it's always quite tough, especially in these cars, because I just don't feel like the braking zone is ever long enough for you to feel like you can even brake late and brake hard, because you're just going to ABS and go straight, almost in a way. But again, you still got to be mindful of that. There's guys that don't understand that, and you've got to say, well, if they're right up behind me, I'm probably going to have to go a little bit defensive here, because it's probably going to be a case of they'll probably dive bomb me. Now, this is the one thing about this corner. Coming into turn 4, so not this one, but coming into the following one, the biggest thing is that diving to the inside actually can sometimes be your worst enemy coming through here, because the problem is that if you dive to the inside, you instantly get the outside coming into 5 and 6. Now, the problem is there's never any grip on the outside of 5 and 6. So for you to feel like you can hang it around the outside of 5 and 6, it's never going to happen. You're going to understeer off and you're going to have to concede. But when you concede, it's probably a case of, you know, it's probably going to cost you another 2 or 3 spots, because everybody's just going to have the grip, have the momentum, and just get underneath you, and then you're going to have to slot back in, and then you've gone from P2 all the way down to P5 in a click of the fingers, almost, in a way. So, in all honesty, it's almost just a case of you can actually hold your racing line into 4 if you really wanted to, but it just depends on the certain situation. Depends on the driver you're doing the race with. If you feel like it's a guy that's gonna bomb you in ABS like crazy and just chop your nose off on the exit, then I'd block it off. But if it's a guy that you know is gonna like brake and hold his line, then it's always actually better to just hold your racing line coming into 4. So again, it's there's so many situations that you're dealing with in terms of, you know, what works best, but then as well, like what drivers you're dealing with as well. That's always quite an important thing, and that's what makes it hard in the kind of official racing scene of iRacing, is that you never know who you're dealing with until you're in the moment, almost, in a way. It's always a hard one to be able to know what you need to do, but it's just one of those things that, you know, you build and you grow and you learn, almost, in a way, and that's the way that you can take away and kind of look at it in that sense. But nonetheless, um so does that all make sense with turn 3 there? Is there any questions that you had, or does that kind of open up, broaden out the picture a little bit for you in the sense of what we kind of maybe need to do, just going through that section there?
No, I think it's clear. I think it's clear.
Yep. Okay, perfect. All good. So yeah, that will just be one, the more laps you do, the more comfortable you get. But again, like I said, just put the main priority of like trying to get the speed washed off first, and then kind of trail off and get the car rotated. And that's what you're kind of looking for through there. And if you can do that, then majority of the time that's gonna be quite good for you there. So that's all good there. No problem at all. So 4 and 6, again, very, very close to one another here. I think, in all honesty, you did everything perfectly. No real complaints about actual structure. The only difference is that we had slightly different application pressures, and that's what kind of caused us to have that half a tenth difference through here. Coming in, you broke at the exact same point, so utterly perfect. you can just see your peak was a little bit softer. So your peak coming in initially was 40. My peak initially was 45, 46 basically. But then you can see you had a slight little kind of moment where you had to incrementally increase it just a little bit. And then obviously that was just there because you felt like in the moment, oh, I maybe just need a little bit more just to kind of get it slowed down and get it rotated. You did it. And then obviously that little bit of kind of increment that you made there is just going to basically make it feel like, yeah, you wash off a little bit more speed, or it just sort of changes the momentum a little bit, and then it might make you sort of trail the brake off a little bit more. So yeah, that's a really really small difference there that is barely doing anything for you in terms of making you lose speed or gain speed, but it's enough to make you lose basically half a tenth because then everything gets pushed back. You can see that obviously the on throttle point gets pushed back, then the amount of throttle that you can carry through the rest of the section gets kind of slightly tinkered with. So how was that section for you? Any comments through there, or you can just see that yeah, it's a very minor difference there. Just maybe need a little bit more pressure at the beginning, about 5-6%.
Yeah, like the one thing I'm thinking here, because I'm also looking on the side, all the brake pressure, like from the entire lap, it's kind of
Yeah,
a common behavior where like I increase the pressure as I go, and
yeah,
I'm trying to think here, and what I think is happening, and I have to like stop that behavior. Since we talked about the ABS, I want to try to not engage the
yeah,
ABS. So
yes, sure,
I go on the brakes and then I
yeah,
push harder to try to find
yeah,
like if I'm still below the ABS or not.
mhm,
Um,
mhm,
and I think that's what's giving like this upward uh, pattern in the beginning of my braking
yeah,
zones. And I think I should
yeah,
just like commit. And if that was too
yeah,
much and engage the ABS, next time I'll go slightly less. And then trying
yeah,
to
yeah,
create the muscle memory instead of trying to be
yeah,
like fishing for the right brake pressure and just catch the right
yes.
brake pressure towards the end of the corner.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I saw that you were using the caps overlay again with obviously the actual percentage integer input there, which is obviously really helpful. I've been using that as well, again in my situations, just to be able to see the exact pressure. I wish iRacing added that to their overlay. Would be such an easy thing for them to do, but obviously, yeah, clearly it's not an easy thing to add in at this point for them in this period. So, yeah, I mean, look, it's something that's really handy because it just allows you to do what you need to do in that manner. And I think it's just yeah one of those things that you got to kind of keep in mind. But I think yeah don't try and think about the ABS too much because at the end of the day we know that the ABS isn't going to kick in until a lot deeper down the sort of stream until you're up around that 60% margin. We're barely even close to that. We're not even close to the 50s in this particular situation. So yeah, around 45, 46, just try and get to that at the beginning. And if you can get to that like right from the get-go, that's going to be super for you, rather than trying to maybe bite into a little bit more. But I understand that as well, right? And that's just all relating to what we've talked about. But don't be, I guess, yeah, like you kind of just said there, don't be afraid to just get to where you need to be initially, and then just get the slowing down phase done. And then once you get the slowing down phase done, it puts yourself in a good position anyway, right? So that's obviously what we're looking at. So no, man, look, I think all really good nonetheless. The approach is all perfect, the application is all perfect, so nothing to really complain or sort of assess there. I think it's just more so a case of yeah, I think it all looks really good. So just a little bit more pressure initially, and try and, like you said, just maybe retract that little bit of a habit that you're trying to squeeze into a little bit more. You don't do it very often, which is good. It's just more so in corners like this where they're a little bit more of like a unique angle that you're kind of going into sometimes. Just try and kind of make sure that you're putting everything in the right position, and if you can do that, you'll always be really really good. So yeah, no, look, otherwise, man, all really good. Now, this is where time starts to disappear a little bit. It seems like it's a lot, but it's very, very simple changes that are costing you the time, which is good because I think these will be very, very easy things for you to change. Now, when I look into this hairpin, the first thing that I basically see is we're just turning in basically almost too early in a way, right? That's pretty much what I'm looking at and what I see here. Now, it is kind of very interesting in a way because when you actually do look at the track map, right, and you see where you actually basically turn in, well, where your car is positioned and where my car is kind of positioned, you do kind of turn in earlier and more aggressively, but you still are slightly more wider than I am almost in a way. Now, it's always an interesting one because, coming in realistically, we're on there or thereabouts the same sort of point. but I think you can just see that maybe it's potentially coming in. I had like a slight little bit more than you. Like right here, you can see I have like 8 degrees, 8.5 degrees more, and you can see that right there. But then the thing is I have that little bit more there, but I kind of like retracted a little bit more, and I'm kind of keeping it straight as I turn in. So almost in a way, I have like a little bit of a flick, almost like a little bit of a just a initial point of action almost before I actually hit like trail off the brake just to kind of get it to start angling into the corner a little bit. But I'm not actively turning in to get that to happen in a way. So that just kind of pitches the car in a little bit for me and just starts that process, but I don't actually start that process until a little bit later. So almost in a way, what's happened here is that naturally, because you've broken a little bit earlier, you've broken obviously a little bit harder. Um, naturally you're going to be washing off the speed a little bit more. So when you obviously start to, get to that point where you're like, okay, well, where does that trail-off phase start to happen? It's naturally just happening there because you feel like in your mind the car is slowed down enough, right? You're 12.6 kilometers an hour, maximum of 13.7 k an hour, slower, sorry, coming into the corner, just meaning that where you feel like your trail-off phase should happen is a lot earlier than mine. Now, again, if you felt like you kept trailing the brake deeper into the corner, you probably would have felt like you were going probably like 20 or 22 kilometers an hour slower than I was in comparison, right? But the difference is that the confidence that you might have had back on the throttle by doing that probably might have not made you lose maybe as much time, almost in a sense. You might have only lost like a bit over a tenth rather than just under 2 tenths, even though it doesn't really make sense how that is. That on throttle confidence, that extra phase at the back end of the throttle that you can kind of see there, where you're just kind of sitting at about 75% basically for pretty much nearly 25-30 meters almost in a way. If that wasn't there, you probably actually would have gained a little bit more time back because you would have been able to drive through the X a little bit more aggressively rather than feeling like you had to halt it there. So ultimately what's happening is that your peak here is how much more? Basically, 6 or 7% more. So about 47 in comparison to 53, 54. So if you drag that down to less than 50 and made it about 48, 49, or obviously 47 where I am, if you equal that out, what would happen is you'd feel like your turn-in point or where you want to turn in would happen later, because again, as we know, you start to trail the brake off when you turn in, but you're not going to feel like you're ready to turn in because you're not going to feel like the car's slowed down enough yet, right? So you keep holding the pressure, then as you turn, that's where you trail, and that's where you end up deeper. So do you feel like your trail brake was almost forced based on where you felt like the car was ready to turn, almost in a way, and you just followed the trend, or what was your feeling through here in a way?
I'm trying to think through it now, and
Mm.
I think it's what's happening is I start trail braking because if I keep the pressure, I'm gonna stop the car, right?
Yes,
If you
yes,
if you
yes.
look, like I'm looking here, the top one, the speed, I'm like 14
Yeah,
kilometers an hour slower than you are. So
yes, yes.
what's happening there is I start to trail the brake, so I can
Yeah,
actually carry some speed, which
yeah.
the way I'm reacting there is like the maximum that I can carry, but I can see like there is a lot of more speed that I can carry there. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
like really, I'm gonna try this thing the first thing after we finish the session, because
Mm.
I have no idea how you can carry 14 kilometers an hour more. Because when I go there,
Yeah,
I told you like I'm trying to not kill myself on the exit. When you see like my
yes, yes,
my throttle being held at like 75%, is because
yeah,
I only finish it after I go down, like after I hit the thing that goes down, and then I feel like okay, I can
yes,
hit the gas here. So I try to time
yes,
it that way, and
yes.
every single time I did something slightly different, I carried a little bit more speed. I was all there
Yeah,
on the grass, like taking cones home and stuff like that. So I'll
sure.
try. I'll
Yeah,
try this one because I think it's like maybe the later braking pressure and holding for longer. And as you said, like I
yes,
think there's a detail that you said, which is kind of like inducing the wheel from the beginning. And
yes,
inducing the wheel from the beginning might help me be like more sideways on the corner and
correct.
use that
Yeah,
speed like to go around, because I'm not like just on a trail. I'm actually like
yeah.
sliding around it.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, I think the important case to kind of remember here, bro, is that like where the speed obviously starts to remove for me and start to come back to you is as I continue holding the trail, right? When you remove the trail, you pick up speed. So I'm carrying 14 kilometers an hour in, but I'm losing it as you trail off the brake, right? So it's more so a case of like I don't actually carry 14k an hour through the corner. I carry 14k an hour into the corner, and if anything, almost in a way, the way you're doing it right now, you're actually carrying more momentum through the apex than I. Even though it's slower, you're still carrying more momentum through the corner than I am, right? Which probably is when you try and adjust it in other ways by doing it in the same approach, it doesn't work. Whereas it's very similar to turn 3. I'm slowing the car down more at the start, losing momentum through the middle, which then gives me confidence coming out. Very same situation. Whereas you're kind of you are getting it slowed down at the start, but you're picking up the momentum in the middle, and then obviously as you get to the middle and try to react to get back on the throttle, it doesn't react in the way you want it to, right? So it's more so a case of just like ideas there, structures there, just a little bit of a different approach, and that's what's going to open up this corner quite a bit for you, right? So yeah, just try and think about it more of like holding the brakes for longer, bringing the pressure down a little bit, carrying the speed in, washing the momentum off in the middle almost in a way, and sort of just carrying that minimum momentum already coming in once you kind of hold the brake for a little bit longer, and then power on whenever you're ready with confidence, and it'll end you up where you exactly want to be, right? So very similar situation to what we talked about at turn 3, but just in a little bit of a different approach, right? So yeah, I think that'll be an easy one for you to find some free time back, and then of course as you go up the hill, the problem is that whatever you do coming out of here, it just kind of carries it almost in a sense just based on the speed differences that we're feeling. So, I mean, now coming through T10, ultimately we're just braking too hard here. So your peak pressure here is 25. My peak pressure was 12, 13. So here is just generally a case of just carrying less brake. I mean, ultimately, what it does allow you to do, as you can see, you can pick up the throttle and get the full throttle quicker, but then it also means that you have to lift off more coming through here, which then means that, again, the momentum changes. So it's just more so a case of up the hill here, based on what we did coming out of the previous corner, the momentum shifted a little bit, and now we're just kind of chasing momentum all the way up the hill. So realistically here, it's just, yeah, the peak needs to come down a little bit. And yeah, but yeah, how did this section feel for you? Any main comments here or?
Yeah, I tried a couple of different things. The first thing I tried was just lifting, and then I went like straight through, and then I realized I had to brake.
Yeah.
Then I was braking too late, too hard. Now I'm braking too early and too hard. But like this went down from like 45% like to 25% because I was trying to get like to your level. So I think I'm getting there. I think the thing here that I have to remind myself while I'm doing it, kind of like the left-hander is not the most important one. Is how I set up myself for the right-hander. That's kind of the important one. Like when I saw the video, I realized that. And as we're showing right now, like there's a big lift that happens. And if I like reverse engineer this, I think things are gonna fall in place.
Yeah, exactly. So look, it's just one of those little confidence areas. So I think here, like where all the time, and it's good that the time is going away in these areas, because in my opinion, especially throughout the hill here, this is probably the easiest part of the track for you to gain time back. It's just, again, approaching the corner in the right manner and having the right situational awareness coming through here as well. That really does help you out. So I think, yeah, if you can think about it in the right way, and be able to approach it in that right manner, as you sort of mentioned, and reverse engineer it almost in a way and say, okay, well, this equals to this and that equals to that. If you can put all those things together, that's where you get the result. So just know, yeah, you can carry a lot less pressure coming in, even with where you're braking. You can just carry a lot less pressure, and it'll just carry the speed in a little bit better. So yeah, that's otherwise all good there. 14 and 15. So here, naturally, just because you're going just slightly slower, not a lot. You brake a little bit deeper than I do. Just causes you to have a little bit more pressure. Then of course it kind of just makes you hesitate. I think a little bit on the exit of the corner here, where you have to kind of crack it back, just because you went a bit deeper. Obviously, it pushed you wider coming out of the exit there, and then because it pushed you wider, obviously the radius of turn 15 become too tight. And I find that in literally 90% of the cars that I drive here. Like I did a lap here in the MX-5 the other day, for a few other clients, and I found the exact same thing. Like if you went slightly deeper with the Mazda, you didn't have to crack the throttle through the left, whereas if you positioned it better, then you could keep it flat out through the left. So just always, like, if you feel like when you get through the apex here, it bowls slightly wide, just sort of say, okay, well, I just need to kind of bring it back a little bit so that it ends up a little bit better position. So did you feel that in any of the laps that you did? Did you feel like you positioned it like maybe more balanced and a little bit more to the right as you exited the corner, and you could keep T15 flat, or were you always trying to maybe push it out a bit deeper coming through the exit of 14, and then it was always kind of positioned in that way coming into 15 for you?
Yeah, I think what happened here, I was braking significantly earlier than you were. So like
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
slowing down the car a lot. And because I
yeah,
was slowing
sure.
down the car a lot, I was able to go down flat, right? But then when I
Okay,
saw like
yeah,
our difference in where we're braking, I was like, hey, I have to brake like way later. And I just think I
yeah, yeah,
went too late. And now I have to like to pull in
yeah,
a little bit
yeah,
to find that spot. And I think like once I hit the same spot, it's likely going to be the same brake pressure,
yeah,
and like everything's just gonna fall in place. Like I don't think there's a hard
yeah.
corner to go around once you get like the right braking spot.
Yep, yep. No, exactly. So I think, yeah, very kind of simple little areas, just minor little tinkering sort of areas. But again, those things come from more track time at a circuit like this. So I think, yeah, not a lot of time there on the table. Just, yeah, a very minor adjustment that will sort you out there. So otherwise, that's very good. And then finally, 16 and 17 here. So this kind of like little left right kink almost in a way. Again,
Whenever it
whenever
decides
VRS
to.
doesn't want to have whenever it has its moment. Um, if it does want to load, that'd be fantastic. Man, I tell you what, the servers on this app sometimes absolutely drive me insane. Like, I don't know if you have issues with it ever, but God, the amount of times I can be in a lesson and then next minute it just decides it wants to start loading for 5 minutes, exactly like it does here, and just
When I was
it's an
practicing
absolute
earlier
pain.
today, I was trying to load it,
Mm,
and it took like 5 minutes
yeah,
to load it.
yeah,
So
yeah,
they
yeah.
might
No,
be actually
genuinely.
down like on their server.
Yeah. Oh, there
There
we
we
go.
go.
Finally, gotcha. Yeah, it's been down sometimes for me. Like I don't know if you've ever loaded on before, and it comes up with like the full like grained out like grey screen on the
Just
back,
great. Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
it
you
happened
just kind of
today.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it happened today. Yeah.
yeah.
I've had that once before, and I'm literally like, I can't make it today. VRS is just not actually working, and they don't even have like a server for me for it either. It's just like, oh, we're down for 3 hours. Sorry. I'm like, yeah, well,
Yeah,
that's very handy.
that is
Thank
a
you.
lot. Yeah.
Um, yeah, exactly. So this is one of those corners where what you're doing at turn 3 right now is what you kind of need to be doing here. So this is one of those ones where it's like it's the reverse squeeze, right? So instead of getting to the peak at the start, you're getting to the peak at the end. So pretty much for me, like where I start my braking here is just as I basically make contact pretty much with the curb, which I think is pretty much exactly the same for you. Right as I make contact with the curb coming into the left, I pick up the brakes. Now you can see that the comparison is that I have a little bit more of like a more slower squeeze into it, whereas you kind of have a little bit more of like an aggressive squeeze on into it initially. So you kind of almost treat it as if that's your peak pressure, almost in a way. That's the way you're going about it. Whereas you need to kind of like slowly progress into a little bit more. And what that will allow you to do is just feel like again you can put more pressure in at the back rather than feeling like you've put too much pressure in at the start. And then you kind of feel a little bit lost in like, okay, if I put more pressure in the back, then I'm going to overslow the car too much almost in a way, right? So just think about it in the manner of like, try to like just be very, very initial and very, very sort of slow with it as you get into the corner. And basically as you get to the peak of the curb on the left, then squeeze into it more aggressively in the back half of the corner, right? That's what you're kind of looking for. So yeah, I mean, again, it's really only a tenth, so it's not much. But again, like the confidence that it's going to give you, going through the corner, and then as well just the speed. Even though you get back to full throttle better than me, the speed that you carry through the exit and through the mid is going to give you that run still up until the straight. Even though I get the full throttle later than you, it's just the amount of speed that I'm carrying in comparison, as you can see here, right? I'm still carrying 4k an hour more speed than you coming out of the corner, even though I got to full throttle like basically 50 meters later, right? So, yeah, how did you feel through there? Any main things of concern, or was it pretty good most of the time?
No, this is. I think like this is the first time in my life that I was consistent in this corner, and maybe it's because the
Yep,
car is so weird, the way it
yep,
behaves. Because I feel like
yeah,
this when I go on the throttle, as soon as we
yep,
pass like the right hander curb, it kind of like
yep,
sinks the car, and when it sinks the car, that's
yep,
when I go on the throttle, and it just like
yep,
glues to the floor. So like that's I was pretty consistent here, but I'm seeing like the
yeah,
difference in the behavior, and I'm trying to like
yeah,
engineer in my brain of how, because I was going harder than you were in the beginning. I was like hitting the brakes
yeah,
harder later and
yeah,
harder, but then I tried to
yeah,
kind of like to bring it earlier, but at the same time
yeah.
I'm like picking and holding instead of like squeezing and releasing it.
Yes, exactly. So again, very minor change, and I think again, not a huge difference, but still a tenth that obviously turns into a little bit more as you go down the straight. It's something that you can easily have in your back pocket. So yeah, just something to think about, something to consider. But I think yeah, ultimately, it's all really good otherwise. So um, yeah, look, I think a really good lap here today. I think honestly, when you look at it from our perspective and you see what we're doing in comparison to one another, there's not actually that much in realisticness. I mean, when you look at how much time we're losing up the hill, it's really nearly half a second just up the hill, even maybe more, to be honest with you, just as you're going up the hill. And then the rest is just little minor differences that easily we can chase back. But if you can kind of sort out all those little areas and just find the consistency in what you're doing with them as well, I think honestly this week of Virginia will be quite a good week for you, especially the circuit that is pretty much new for you in this car and you haven't spent any time at. The B here straight away just shows that yeah, the understanding is there, but you can just see there's a few little kind of areas that yeah, obviously can be slightly tinkered with to give you a bit of a better result, and I think if you can do that, then you'll be quite perfect in that manner. So yeah, man, look, really happy. I think look, just take those main takeaways from there today. I think the one main big thing that yeah, again in the next coming weeks we'll definitely bring up in conversation and have a little bit more look at a targeted look at it is the racecraft. Keep that main pointer in mind. Whenever you feel like somebody is potentially going to do something, they probably are going to do something, and make sure that you got that covered. And in any of the races further that you do this week at Okayama, if you're ever in that situation, just make sure that you keep that door closed. Even if they bang it around the outside, that's okay, right? That's fine. But you know that you didn't give them that opportunity because usually if they get you, it probably means that the guy behind you probably isn't going to get you as well. But if you leave that door open, you're going to get put out the dry, and that guy behind you in third is probably going to take some sort of opportunity to try and pass you, which then again, as we know, can probably lead to an accident. So try and just keep that door closed as much as you can, even if you think they're not going to go for it. Like I said, they're probably going to go for it. So yeah, no, look, I think really good week, Alan. And yeah, obviously I don't know where we are for next time, but yeah, we'll obviously find out shortly. But yeah, well, see how you go.
I
Let me know
think
how you get
it's.
on, and any questions always let me know.
I think next week is Autumn for Fosters.
Oh, is it Alton?
I think
Right.
yeah, we're gonna
Okay.
go
I think
back there.
it's
I think we went there once.
yes, we did. We did. It's the double week of Alton, I think, isn't it? I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
it's
yeah.
Alton
Like
Foster,
then
Alton
international.
International.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, we'll become masters Alton then, so that'll be
Yeah,
that'll be a good one. Double of it. You always enjoyed there, so that'll be good
I
to
like it. Yeah.
to do do some racing there. So yeah, man, look, see how you go. I think it'll be a good week for you at Virginia here. So yeah, see how you go at the rest of Okayama, and then pinpoint this one, and yeah, we'll have a look at Alton next week, and go back to where we started and see where we're at.
Yeah, perfect. Like just one reminder, next week's gonna be like on Wednesday,
Yes,
same
correct.
time,
Yes, I've already got
10:30.
that down. So no worries, brother. All
Perfect.
good. Alrighty,
Appreciate it,
Alan.
man.
All good. Thank you so much. Have a good weekend, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you too. Have a good one.
Thanks, bro. Good night, man. You too, man. See you later. Bye.
Bye. All right, so that was our coaching session here with Gianni. So I saw Gianni in Assemble. Like if you do iRacing, you probably have seen. This is just my break. You probably have seen Sambo iRacing or racing, something like that. Let me open here. Sambo setups. So they have like setups that you can buy, whatever. They have a YouTube channel where they post fast laps. And I saw Gianni, which is like the Lutsu driver performance. I saw him there. I saw Sam talking about him. And then I went to his website. I don't know if I found him here or if I just Googled him, Gianni Lutsu. It's Lutsu. And then I found his website. So you're more than welcome. I really like. He's my third coach by far, the best coach I've ever had. Like, being skilled, being a good like driver, is hard. Like, be a pro level is hard, but being a pro level and good coaching is unique, and he's very good at it. So yeah, if you guys are interested, check him out. I highly recommend. He helped me going from like 1.7k to 3 point something k, and not only the rating itself, but like the skills, the tools, how I approach the races, like these discussions that we had in the beginning about how to defend better, like when to make what decision. like how to approach the braking theory. Just like I'm a different driver in 4 months. Like I've improved more in the last I want to say like maybe 12 weeks. I think we have been together for 12 weeks now. Then I had improved the last year. So I'm gonna go to the restroom real quick because it always happens to me. I drink a lot of water, and then we're gonna go to the track. So I'll be right back. Hold tight, and just give me 1 second. All right, we are back. So let's go to the track. Right now, let's not overstress about the. And let me open the chat here because I have it closed for the coaching session. Otherwise, people talking. It gets annoying. So from now on, if you say something, I'm gonna hear. Hold. It's speech chat. So from now on, if you say something, I'm gonna hear it here, so I can follow the chat. And right now, we're gonna just go back. I think turn 1 was pretty good. And like the way I'm gonna approach this is, let's look for the low-hanging fruits, right? Let's not try to boil the ocean here. And if we look here, like this is the full track. From here all the way through here, like 1,000 meters, I am really like 0. Is that true? Yeah, that's true. So I'm really like same time. He is 0.01 faster than I am in the first 1,000 meters, which takes us to the exit. Like this is turn 1, then 2 and 3. And then I have 4. As we enter 4, we're losing there 3/10, which ends here. Then we lose a lot of time on the backside. So behavior on the brakes, but also going to be focusing more. Probably this one, I think there is some time to be gained here immediately. But he said one thing that's like interesting, which was this space here is where like I can easily gain in here as well. So we're going to be focusing mostly on those, unless I forget about it and I'll be focusing on something else, which also happens. So let's just now focus on getting active setup on the finish line. That's what I said, like this is how much track you have to use here. I think I'm braking more than he was. He goes on the gas earlier. And then, yeah, that was not like good. Garbage. All garbage so far. Everything I've done so far is garbage. And this was the one here, like, and that's like the thing that I was talking about, that the car drops. And here's where he was talking about like the 3/10 they're just given. Is he going too early? And here's the flat. Oh, it's interesting. So if you go like the squeeze there, you get more rotation. So that's why it has a better exit here.
Your car looks fine. No damage to report.
Okay. Yeah, went too deep on this one. Not gonna be our best corner one. This is a great track, by the way. Oh, a lot of sliding. That's a lot of time wasted. Too late, too late, too late, too late. And now I have like a bad exit, you see? And I cannot stay flat. All the things we discussed.
New fast flat for you.
So fun fact, we are like 9,000ths of a second slower than our fastest lap that we just reviewed. So immediate improvement. Too late, too late, too late, too late. I'm just like carrying like that here. I screwed up like that corner 2, and everything that's happened afterwards is truly like carrying over that. No, too late. Wasn't as good. I'm impressed though. I'm impressed though. I'm feeling confident here. We can shave like another. You see like the slide I told him how it goes deep. No. I think slightly more on the brakes there. You know what? Let's just call this a loss and let's reset this lap. There's something wrong here. Okay. Alright, was something wrong with my... Let's actually remove this guy here for a second. Alright, let's remove it for a second. Let's focus on getting this right, okay? Not on the delta. Let's focus on the track itself. We can feel that was not right. I think turn 1 was very good, but then everything else that followed was not good. Here we're still shaving off too much speed too early. Like this is what I was talking about. Going too aggressively on the gas. Too late. Or maybe like release too early. Our target here is like 33.5, 32.5. We're still very far from that, so let's focus. Oops. Yeah, there's an off track. Yeah. Open up more. So let's see. Let's see one thing here. Let's go back to the telemetry. Because this was our fastest lap.
MV Joao Gomez said, "Hello dude, I'm looking for a new setup. I want to get a direct drive. Can you share your opinion and you set up THX?"
Absolutely, absolutely. So I have my wheelbase is Magic Alpha U, so it's the old version, the strongest one. My wheel is just the FX Pro. It was a gift from my wife. And my pedals are SimLab. So I'm just I really like them. So people talk about SimuCube. I think that's the name. So and let me show what I have. So wheelbases. Mine is the Alpha U. This is a 23. I never max it out. If you max this out, you're gonna lose both shoulders, both arms, both hands. Like it's very strong. So if you look, I don't know if you can see here. You cannot see here. But if I showed you like the settings that I have on iRacing, you're gonna see that it's more. Where's my? Should be somewhere here, right? Should show here somewhere. Force feedback. So here I set up for 1, and then I play like in the strength. Now it's like 12. If you look, like this would go all the way like to 60. So I'm using like a fifth of this. But the 12 here, I don't know if that's 12. Like it says 29 newton-meter. I don't believe that. And like the lowest you go, the highest it is. Like and it's just the other way around. But long story short is like I don't use it all. I just don't use it all. But it's very good because it gives you a lot of sensitivity in the range we drive. So I do recommend. I like them. And my pedals. My pedal is this one here. The load cell one. So these are my pedals. And it's load cell. And like this is, if I show you, I had it open. Like this is me pushing very hard. And I can still calibrate to have more. And this is not the strongest spring. So I'm not like a pro in the sense that I know a lot of setups and a lot of things. I really like mine. I'm not planning to change or to upgrade anything. I think they're very good. They have the adjustments they need, and I've adjusted to my liking. So I'm not sponsored, but I do recommend them both, SimMagic and SimLab for the pedals. Does that help? And I was gonna go back here to the. I want to see this guy here. So it's not that he squeezes; he just breaks less and later. So I go later and less, and then we turn in. Okay, later and less. And here, how we're doing now? Like if I were to check our last lap. So let me change this one. This is the latest one, right? Was 119, yeah, was 120. And then I'll take from him.
MV Joao Gomez said,
Now we're losing a lot of time.
a lot, thank you. MV Joao Gomez said, I'm using Logitech G923.
I think that's where everybody starts, right? I had one before I upgraded to this. I bought like most of the
MV Joao
things used.
Gomez said, nice setup bro, thank you for share. I'm from Brazil and I will travel to USA this year. I'm looking for MOZA and SimMagic, but MOZA is cheaper.
Yeah, think about like the ecosystem, which one, like if you want to buy wheels in the future, stuff like that. I bought this one. I don't really know like why I bought this one. I think I was looking for deals on Facebook Marketplace, and this was a used one, and it was much cheaper than like the new one. It was in very good condition, so I bought it. But I knew it was good, and I don't regret it. So that's the best way of saying it. I'm gonna go to Sim Expo in May, and I'll check out more stuff. So if we're coming to the US after May, I think it's like end of the year, right? Or this year. So I'm gonna check out more stuff there, and I can like maybe learn new things, and I'll definitely share those, because that's a very common question that people have, and I feel like I'm at a time that I should like learn more about it as well. But I do like I don't know if you follow Careca no Volante. He uses Moza. He likes it. Like all his entire things is Moza. I know they're very good. There's Fanatic as well. I know they're good. I just think they're expensive for what they are, what they offer. And yeah, I think those are the three like I'll call mid-tier. Like Fanatics maybe like more entry level, but the G923, right? That's the Xbox one, Xbox and PC. What I learned, like because it's not strong, I learned to drive with very soft hands and feel the car, so that helped me a lot in the beginning. But I think you are like, if I remember, like a 4K or something, so you probably know much more than I do those things. It's funny because we are almost same pace, just lost a bit, but like much slower. Let's compare us versus us, right? I think that's a good start. So let me go to the previous session. Was this one fastest lap? So where I got faster, now what I'm gonna slower. So I got slower in turn 1. Interesting. I'm braking slightly earlier, going on the gas slightly later, and the time's on the exit, the time's not on the entry. So okay, let's fix that so we don't compound. We're doing this faster, which is good, so we improve this. And I think it's more similar to what he was doing, but I guess not good yet. 4 through 6 I'm slower, and I'm faster 7 through 9. Then I'm much faster here, and then 7. So the time really is from what I was doing before. I improved here already by a lot, right? Now I have to recover turns 1 and turn 4 through 6. So let me compare that against him again. So I need to improve 1, like I know what I'm doing wrong. 4 through 6 I got slower. Let me see 7 through 13, how much we're still losing. Seven through 13. Now I'm losing there 0.23. I think it was like 3/10 here before, right? So improved a bit there. Yeah, let's try to get like a few good laps in. Oh, I didn't have one. I thought I had one. No? I thought I had an extra reset point. So it's too much rotation, you see. We have to use a little bit less rotation. Cannot miss that apex. A little bit harder on the brakes. No, 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 no. Yeah, for now all we have to do is remember to create an active reset point. I'm trying to remember what the change was here. A little bit later and a little bit less. Too early. Too early, too early, too early.
MV Joao Gomez said, "Thank you for the tips, good race, and I hope to race together again with you."
Yeah, sometime soon, hopefully, right? I'm racing Okayama this week. I'm gonna be back to Okayama on Saturday on Demi Shoes, and Friday is like Formula Friday, or yeah, Formula Friday. So tomorrow I'll be checking out like the formulas and racing the F4 somewhere. Complete garbage. This one was complete garbage. Too much. Have to be more patient, like I said. Yeah, we're gonna use the BMW driver mentality. If you haven't checked out our last video, no, I didn't slow down. Like, yeah, it's a different brake behavior there. That was not a good exit. But I'm trying to get the behavior on the brake, so I'll just set this up in case we screw it up. I'm just compounding the debt right now. I felt like turn 1 was good, 1 and 2, but then I lost a lot of time. don't crash, don't crash, don't crash, don't crash. It did crash. Oh, I remember, like, we have to induce a bit more rotation early on that corner. Missed the apex by a lot. Off track.
You cut that corner and got a slow down penalty.
I did cut the corner. Let's see where we can pay this off. I didn't induce like the same initial rotation you did. Let's just cut our loss here. That was not good. Try again. Oops! Yeah, if I feel like that, I should go... I just have to go harder on the brakes here, from the beginning. No, open up too much. That's a lot of time wasted there. Couple more times, let's try a few more laps. Because I do feel like we can improve here. Significantly. That was awful. I was feeling so great about that corner. I'm thinking too much. Let's just try to like go on the flow, get in the flow. Flow may help. Missed the apex. Slow down here. You see I missed like the curb there. This off track was silly. I have to open up more for this corner. Alright, let's stop like overthinking. Stop overdriving the car. Let's just drive. Garbage. Maybe I have to work a bit more on that as well. Like, we're feeling so good before. We're nailing that like lap after lap. That's what I said before, like if you hit the grass there, you're toast. I think caps is gone. Let's open caps again. You see like I over slow down, like we improved. Still losing a lot. I don't know where we got off track, to be honest. I didn't see any off tracks. Our optimal is like 32.6. We have to be able to put one of those laps together. Come on. every time we miss the apex there, it costs us a lot of time. I'll do like 3 more fast laps, and that's it. You see, like, if you go too much on that curb, you completely lose the lap after. Or the follow-up of the corner. One more, guys. One more and that's it. You know what? Let's remove this thing here. That doesn't help at all. Let's just focus on what we have to do. Okay, now focus. I'm sure this is the last one. No, we can't go off an off track, right? Has to be a clean one. Clean one. Garbage, garbage, garbage. Let's see. Yeah, we improved a bit. We could have improved a bit. But we have to put it together. We have to put like a good lap together. I don't think it's gonna be today. So we will have to come back to this. Practice a bit more before next week's Virginia. Tomorrow we have the formulas. Let's see what we're gonna be racing tomorrow before we go. So, oops. Just out of curiosity, how far can we brake on the inside here? Can be like even deeper than that. So probably here. Oops. Yeah, not bad, right? Just losing like 1 to 10s. We're trying to defend a position. Here's tough, like some people try to overtake. Here's just a tough place. And let me see here the inside. That's the only other place I want to see on the inside. Come here. Brake harder. Yeah, I can still go side by side. Yeah, that's the one that I wanna... This is how we go around this corner. But if you hit the grass, you're toast. But that's how we go around the corner. Alright, so test a few things. I'm gonna come back to this track. I'm definitely gonna come back to this track. I think there's more we can do here, to be very honest. Alright, so... Did we improve? I don't think we improved, right? I mean, we improved overall, but not... Yeah. Tomorrow we're gonna do the formulas, the F4s. We don't have the tracks, license content. Fuji, Tucson, Sonoma. Should we buy Sonoma? That's actually good to know. Magni course. So maybe we'll skip the formula, or we do like the garbage cars. What do you guys think?
Coen Fatene said, Haven T race this week, still trying to get up to pace on the track. By the time I'm ready it will be a new track, lol.
It's always better to race than not to race. Like, I feel like it's... You get to a point that you marginally improve anyways, right? So... At that point, it's better for you to go to the track and race and develop some racecraft and like have some fun than stress over like being super... I think you're talking about M2s, right? What's your lap time right now in Okayama? We might do this, guys, by the way. We might do like this one because it's the same track. It's Virginia. It's a long Virginia though, so... We'll figure out formula tomorrow. So let me see here. Tsukuba. I like Tsukuba. Production challenge, 25 minutes. I haven't done that yet this season.
Coen Fatene said, still like 6 off your pets. I barely had any time this week to practice. Coen Fatene said, on my best laps.
But like, let me see here. I think my absolutely fastest lap so far on qualify was like a 39.9. If you have like a 45, you were starting P4, P5. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's bad. I think you should race it. People take themselves away. Like, happened to me. I was P2, P3, I spun. There was one race, P1 just like went off track. I think like, as long as you're consistently below 41, you should be good. You should be golden. Let me see. The previous one. So... yeah, it would be like before here.
Coenfatene said, okay.
Yeah, like, don't... Kareem, like, he's insane. He's very good. Yeah, don't worry about perfection. Like, you are... that pace is enough to have a good race. Like, if you can be consistently below 41, you can finish top 6 for sure. If you are not involved in accidents, and you might finish, like, podium. Cool. So that's it for today. Thank you very much, every single one of you who joined. Tomorrow, 10 p.m. Eastern, we're going to be back here doing Formula Fridays probably. I'm thinking whether doing like M2s or Formula 4s tomorrow, or a mix of both. But Fridays are Formula 4s, or Formula Fridays. So we might just do something else. Just relax, keep it interesting, and just like... the problem, the cars suck. Yeah, we have like, you can alternate these two cars, I think. We do Formula Fridays tomorrow, okay? That's it. Thanks, everyone.
Said, have a good one, man.
Thank you. You too. You guys have a great rest of your night, and I'll see